Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Going back to Risalatul Huquq and the commentary on the rights of different things that our fourth Imam has mentioned. Tonight, inshallah, we'll talk about the right of your sight, the right of your eyes, haqqul basar. As Imam mentions, he says, and the right of your sight is that you lower it before everything which is unlawful to you, and that you abandon using it except in situations in which you can take heed in such a way that you gain insight or acquire knowledge by it. Indeed, sight is the gateway to learning. Inshallah, very briefly, we'll focus tonight on this aspect of this right that Imam ﷺ is mentioning that we have upon our eyes. Obviously, understanding the concept that eyes are one of the more important features in the organs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon human beings as well as other creations. It is a gateway to knowledge, as Imam himself is mentioning, as long as you utilize it in the proper manner. We'll look at different verses in this regard as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also talks about it when he says in Surah Nahl, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. That he made for you hearing, the eyesight, and hearts so that you may give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As far as our duties back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned, we mentioned many times before as well in regards to all of these organs that He has created. The best way to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is by using them in the way which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it permissible for us to use. Instead of just being thankful through our tongue, rather be thankful to the way that you use these organs that Allah has created. It also covers the concept of insight, and it's not just the sight apparently in the physical manner, but it's also the insight. For example, if you look at the verse from Surah Yusuf, verse number 108, it says, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِ عَدْعُ إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبِعَنِي وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. He says, say, this is in my way. I summon to Allah with insight. I summon all of those people to Allah with insight. I and he who follows me. And then he says, immaculate is Allah, and I'm not one who is among the polytheists. Obviously, this is in regards to Prophet Yusuf, talking about in this realm where his brothers, the atrocities that they had committed. Vision, or the vision system, the multidisciplinary one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, the vision is so important in our understanding that it is given special consideration in psychology. It is more important in physics as well as because of its relation to light and the optics. Moreover, it is given a special consideration by philosophers because it is important in discovering mysterious things. Likewise, it is special consideration. It has special consideration in biology because it is an important part of the human body. So you see, it would not be an understatement if we would not be exaggerating when we say that this eye or the sight that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created to us is subject to study of several fields of sciences, whether these sciences are, humans are studying, or these sciences are related to the insan or the animals or whatever might be. It is one of the more important studies as far as this is concerned. Proper use of the eyes is what is being meant over here by our Imam Masum. He said, God the Almighty advised us about the importance of the eyes in the Holy Quran when He says, Alam naj'al lahu aynayn. He said, have we not made for him a pair of eyes? Surah Balad, verse number 8. And we'll elaborate as to what does it mean in this brief verse. When Imam elaborates it, when Imam explains, this is just, if you read the translation of it, what does it say? It says, have we not made for him a pair of eyes? But when you go into the details of this verse, this one little small verse, Imam mentions so many aspects that we can't even look at it from our perception. There's the mantuq of the ayah, there's the mafhum of the ayah, there's the apparent meaning of the verse, there's the implied meaning of the verse, and all the other context of revelation and whatnot, which is beyond this ayah. Inshallah, we will mention that as well. The eyes are man's most important means of communicating with the outside world. The eyes are so amazing that they force us to be humble to our Creator. However, some people do not make proper use of them. That is why we see in Quran, in Surah Araf, verse number 179, Allah says, وَلَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ أَعْيُنٌ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ آذَانٌ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا. He says, certainly we have created for hell many of the jinn and the humans. They have hearts which they do not use and do not understand by which. They have eyes which they do not see with. They have ears which they do not hear with. And then Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. He said, they are like cattle. They are like animals. Rather, they are more astray than the animal. It is they who are the heedless ones. Look at this verse. And three features that we've been discussing, and Imam has also placed them in this exact fashion when he's talking about their rights. That these are the people who possess the physical eyes, but they do not use it. They possess this physical organ of ear, but they do not use it. They possess this heart that Allah has created for them, but they do not properly utilize it. At the end, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does? He compares these people with animals. We go ahead and ask a question. Is it a fair comparison that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is comparing ashraful makhluqat, where Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, we have give karamat to Bani Adam, children of Adam. Is it fair or just by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go ahead and compare insan, which is ashraful makhluqat? After creating insan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Tabarakallahu ahsanul khaliqeen, that glory to the Lord who created such beings, that he goes ahead and compares it with animals. Let's look at it. When a person is compared to an animal, it is because of their inability to utilize organs which Allah has bestowed with a special power. Animals have vision. Animals have the ears, the ability to listen. They have the ability to even speak, the way they communicate in their way. But all of which is limited and not powerful enough, the way Allah has bestowed all of these things to mankind. According to the laws of justice, we must keep in our mind that based on the abilities which every being is bestowed with, there lies equal responsibility for that. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this vision, there's a responsibility with that. When He has given us the ability to listen, there's a responsibility with that. He has given us the ability to speak, there's responsibility in front of that. For example, let's look at it materialistically. If a person is bestowed with abundant wealth, he is expected to spend more in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by doing infaq, as opposed to the person who's limited in his resources. Obviously, you will not be expecting too much from this individual. But a person who's given abundant amount of wealth is looked or expected, even by our own standards, let alone from the standards that Allah has created. Even by our own standards, if we see there's a person who's mukhayyar among us, who has the ability and has abundant wealth, we look upon this person with expectations that this person will be a help to other people. This is a tendency that we have. Therefore, if there is a being which possesses eyes, ears, and a heart, in the sense that these can distinguish between good and the evil, not merely just the organs, the physical organs that even animals possess, using them improperly this person will not reach the reality. In fact, he is someone who abhors the reality due to his stubbornness. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, these are the people who are heedless. In such a case, this person would drop below his own level and sometimes below the level of those who do not possess these organs in this same exact way, just the animals. Bal adal. It's not just kal an'am, bal hum adal. They're even worse than some of the animals, because these animals don't possess this favor of Allah in the same way insan does. Therefore, there's no responsibility upon them, and this will not be considered injustice from Allah if some humans suffer the evil consequences of misusing their organs because they chose this downfall for themselves. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to go ahead and punish them without any cause. No, they chose this path, as opposed to some people who are using their eyes and their hearts and their ears in the correct fashion. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And from another perspective, is this comparison of humans with animals, is it fair? Isn't this lowering Or even an animal can say that, why am I being compared to such lowly individual? Some animals could turn around and say the same thing when we compare some evil people in the world to certain animals. No, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set this example and the tone himself in the Quran. Kunu qiradatan khasi'in. That be like those monkeys that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to in Surah Baqarah. He refers to them as khanazir, as pigs. He refers to them as kilab. Different animals and the examples Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given in Quran. But let's look at it. Is it a fair comparison? And inshallah we'll end with that. By looking at the benefits gained from animals and bad actions of insan, this comparison is actually real and logical. How is it real and logical? Most expensive garments which insan uses for himself comes from the animal. Silk that we use, aberration that we use comes from an animal. Most essential food for the survival of mankind is from animal. Milk, honey, meat, and other dairy products, all coming from animal. Animals are still used for pulling and carrying luggage for mankind. Man is still utilizing it in different areas of life, in different parts of the world. Some animals were instructors for mankind. For example, the crow, which came down to teach Qabil how to bury his brother, was an instructor for insan. Some were informers for the Prophet, where again, look at Quran, the hudhud, the hoopoe that came from Mulk-e-Saba and informed Prophet Suleiman as to there's a place where there's a lady who's the ruler and these people worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was an informer, but a bird, but an informer to the Prophet. Some animals were actually appointed as protectors of the Prophet. Again, refer to Quran, the spider, Ankabut, the whole chapter in Quran is there, which by building a web outside the cave of Hira helped Prophet escape to Medina. So look at all of these animals, that examples of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving. Animals can be trained and taught. This is why if a hunting dog who has learned the art of hunting by his master and is appointed by the master to go ahead and hunts and kills an animal, guess what? That animal will be considered halal. It will not be haram. If you go ahead and find an animal which is killed, is dead, maita is haram. But if it's killed by the hunting dog which you have sent to go ahead and hunt, that animal when you reach will be considered halal according to the laws of fiqh. So these are the things, if you go ahead and look at, that animals have been given such a status from the verses of Quran, in the light of fiqh. All of this, looking at the above mentioned, we can derive that the comparison of insan with animals is not an unfair one, nor is it injustice by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, some animals are actually better than some human beings. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But we need to understand that animals are a physical being which only worries about its physical aspect. It lacks that ruh which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. That ruh which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blew into Adam, and you and I being Bani Adam, possessing the same ruh. That what it lacks, because it is lacking that ruh which is blown by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore this insan is the only existence or the only being which can reach as high as the level of infallible angels, and it could reach down to the level of worse than some of the animals. Look at this hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. Inshallah we'll conclude with that. He says, and this is being quoted by our sixth Imam, he said, فَقُلْتُ فَقُلْتُ الْمَلَائِكَ أَفْضَلُ أَمْ بَنُوا آدَمَ. That person by the name Abdullah ibn Sinan, he said, I asked Imam, in regards to malaika, again we know the malaika are masoom because they don't commit sin. Are they afdal am banu Adam, or children of Adam? Faqala Amirul Mu'mineen. So Imam, our sixth Imam replied that Qala Amirul Mu'mineen. I'm quoting from Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, that he said, Inna Allah ركب في الملائكة عقلا بلا شهوة وركب في البهائم شهوة بلا عقل وركب في بني آدم كلتيهما فمن غلب عقله شهوته فهو خير من الملائكة ومن غلب شهوته عقله فهو شر من البهائم. Imam ﷺ said that in Allah rakaba, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given malaika the aql without any desires, and He has given the desires to the animals without any aql, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Banu Adam both the desires as well as the aql. He's the only being which possesses both of these attributes and characteristics. He says, فَمَنْ غَلَبَ أَقْلُهُ شَهْوَةً. Plus, this Bani Adam, this insan, if his aql goes over his desires, then he's better than the angels. But if his desires are overtaken by the aql, or his desires are above his aql, then obviously he would be worse than the Baha'im, as the hadith of Rasulullah was also mentioning towards it. As I said, inshallah, we'll end with this, but one more hadith that I see in front of it, and we'll conclude the whole topic. Inshallah, we'll move on to the next discussion as far as the rights of human beings are concerned that Imam is mentioning over here. We see that there's a tradition from Rasulullah. Going back to the verse from Surah Balad that I had recited, Alam naj'al lahu aynayn. We see that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, God told the children of Adam, O children of Adam, I have given you two lips. If your tongue tries to make you commit a forbidden act, close your lips. I have given you eyelids. If your eyes try to make you commit a forbidden act, close your eyelids as well. So it's not like that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us these things without any limitations or without any guards for them. No. The one who has given us these objects or these organs for us to go ahead and use, at the same time has provided for us means so that we can go ahead and make a barrier or put a barrier in front of them so they do not let loose, rather they are in the control of human beings. Let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to be able to follow these teachings of Ma'asumeen alayhim salatu wasalam. Oh Allah, give us the strength to be able to follow the footsteps of Ma'asumeen alayhim salatu wasalam. Oh Allah, hasten the zuhur of our weighted Imam and make us among the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima.